June 24. Good evening, Tony Dottino doing my live with Tony on Friday, June 24. My goodness, the month of June is just kind of evaporating. It's going so quickly. I wanted to talk to you this evening about something I was reading. Had a couple of days on the Florida beaches this week. So at Cocoa Beach, Florida, yesterday, was reading the current issue of the Tufts nutrition newsletter, and I found an interesting article in here on what it takes to change your behavior, or how do you get to believe in yourself. So what is it you do to believe in your own abilities so that you have the confidence to go out and try something, like be a USA memory mental athlete? So I found a lot of parallels here in terms of what this was about, in terms of believing in yourself and how it relates to people we've seen participate as mental athletes and actually, in some cases, win the USA Memory Championship. So I wanted to share some of these outcomes with you, or some of the highlights of this article, which is interesting. It was in the Health and Nutrition letter of Tufts. So the first thing they talk about is four main areas of thought that you want to influence in terms of your belief in being able to do something. And the first is the performance outcomes. If you've succeeded at something once, then you need to be able to build the confidence that you can grow it and expand on it. And so when we're working on people and teaching them how to use some of the memory techniques, the first thing we want them to do is be successful at it. So one of the things I teach people is the Roman room, loci method, journey method. It's how do you get them to at least take 5 items and retain them in order by linking them to objects around the walls of a room or the journey they may take walking down the street. And what I've learned is if I can get people to start with just believing they can follow a process, just follow a process, then they're able to expand that from 5 to 7 to 9 to 10, until they get to the point where, you know what, they believe in themselves and they believe that they can actually do it. Now, the second element there, so the first thing then is to create successful outcomes. Nothing breeds success like success. You've heard that many times. The second thing they talk about here in the Tufts letter is this thing called vicarious experience. And that means, how can you have the feelings and how can you adapt your own confidence through the feelings of others? So do you have someone in your life that believes in you, family, friends, somebody that may be your mentor, coach, and that person, just you can live your experience through their life and how they feel about it, and just let that absorb itself within yourself. So as I do coaching with people, I'm very strong about, I know you are able to do this. I'm totally confident that I'll be able to teach you how to do something that you'll then be able to do on your own. And so just feel my energy and my confidence and believe it. You're going to have the same abilities. You're going to have those same experiences. You're going to get that same emotional connection to it. Then you go through the same principle. Number 3 is verbal persuasion. So we talk about vicarious experience. We talk about performance outcomes. Now we talk about verbal persuasion. Encouragement really influences your self-efficacy. So how do you encourage yourself? What does your self-talk do? So one of the things I've learned in years and years of my consulting work is asking people, what's their intrapersonal dialogue? Meaning, what are they saying to themselves about something? And how might we be able to change that so they can actually believe that they can improve their memories? So it's one of these experiences I have when I start with them in the workshops I do. I ask people, do you believe you can improve your memory? And it's interesting how people kind of bash themselves on, well, gee, I don't think I've got a good memory. But the question always becomes, but have you ever learned how your memory works, or how you might decide to improve it if you chose to want to do so? So what's the verbal dialogue that you're having? But if you can make some small changes to your intrapersonal talking to yourself and give yourself encouragement, and I know I can do this. I've done things in the past that I didn't think I was ever possible, and I've got 1 or 2 of those experiences, and I know I can do this. And so you begin to change that self-doubt and that self-talk and begin to build a little bit of, let me give this a go. Let me try this. And when you hit that bump in the road, how interesting, how fascinating. What might I be learning from this that I can bring forward and make some adaptations to, and make some changes that will bring me to where I need to go. And I have a coach who believes in me, and I need to learn to believe in myself. And it's amazing how I've seen this so many times. I've had it in my own life, in my own experience, where when I worked at IBM, there were things I didn't think I would be able to achieve. And so I would look at people that were getting to places and say, God, I'm as intelligent and as smart and as able as they are, but they moved one level or two levels above me. And I would then begin to realize, well, gee, they just thought they could do it. And I had the skills, I had the abilities, but I just didn't have the same confidence and belief at that time. Well, now I look at it and say, gee, with the experiences and the things I've had and outcomes in my life, I now say, you know what, I can do it if if I believe in it, I desire, find the right coach and the right mentor, and then begin to practice and take the time to practice. And then last but not least, the physiological feedback. Your body's response to a stressful situation, obviously, is to create a negative feedback loop. So when we feel ourselves in a stressful situation, we catch ourselves in a loop, and then we start to begin and believe in this negative loop. And therefore, we start to go through, I can't, I won't, I quit. And so when I look at the mental athletes that we've had that have competed in the USA Memory Championship, I don't know if anyone other than our very first winner, Taniana Cooley, who came in and won the very first event. But I don't know of anybody that actually came into the event and said, man, you know, this is terrific and I'm going to knock this out of the park. When I've seen the results of many of our champions, their first year or two, they made strides. They got in, they contributed, they learned. But their feedback loop was, I know I can do this. I know I can generate some action. So I want to use this feedback to perform better. I want to learn some things from my experience that I can bring with me and go forward with it and just change the loop and not become more anxious and more stressful, but more confident and more capable of being able to do it. So those are the four critical things they talked about. One of the performance outcome. What is the vicarious experience you can have? What's the verbal persuasion that helps move you along and builds the encouragement and support? And then what's your feedback loop and what's it telling you? Now, it then takes along and comes out and says, here are some tips that help bring this about. First, believe in yourself. You know, I just can't tell you the small difference that takes place in people's lives just by their own belief system. And so when I see people that don't believe they can do something, I always ask them, so have you tried this before? Have you had the experience before? Who told you that you couldn't do this? Where did you learn this from? Choosing appropriate goals. So as I said earlier, let's start with 5 words. Let's start with remembering the names and faces of 3 people you meet at the grocery store. Let's start with appropriate goals that you can then set targets for and improve. So if you meet 3 people today at the grocery store, and the next time you're at the store, my goal is to remember those 3 people. Once you've got those 3 people, you know what? I'm going to add 2 more to it. And so now you've met 5 people that work at the grocery store or at wherever you go for your lunch or dinners or restaurants and things. But set realistic goals so that you're building a steady flow of confidence in the process. Next, look for a role model. Who's your coach and your mentor? Who's the person that you look to that says, you know what, I believe in you and I know you can do this. So who's that person in your life? And that person may be your mentor, it may be your coach, it may be, you know, somebody who cares and knows you better than you might know yourself. Don't worry. God, my God, the anxiety and the stress that we give to ourselves sometimes is the biggest enemy that we can have. And so look at things as learning experiences. I'm just exploring growth in my life and learning how to improve my life in whatever it is that I do. And then begin to imagine yourself, you know what, I've done this. I see myself, they talk about visualization as one of the critical things. And I can see myself being in this competition. I can see myself being in a memory competition, and I think I can do pretty well at it. And I'm going to learn something from it. I'm going to bring it forward to the next competition. And life is free in that spirit. Well, look, this weekend time, have a great weekend. Enjoy it, and we'll see you back here on Monday.